Assalamu alaikum, Jiayanu, Pakhairagale, Ni Hao, Chunashumme, Washmale, Ohio Gonzaimes, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa Hal, Haleshuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba, Buna, Mucho Gracias, Wabi, Bali Kare, Hosh Galden, Anayo Sayo, Huyamora, Chivatochi, Haljod, Kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Mariam Zia. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your Thursday morning with us. But first things first, hello Mariam, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum salam. I'm feeling great, Shahzad. How are you feeling today?
I think I'm feeling absolutely perfect, on top of my energy, and you know, every single day we start a day with a very thoughtful, probably terminology. Or
and
if not just that,
positivity.
I think I would want to share this incident where, you know, there was this research conducted, Mariam, in Ohio University. So there were groups of rabbits which were being fed on a high cholesterol diet. Now, I want everybody to understand what I'm trying to say over here. So imagine that, you know, there was a group of rabbits which were given that high cholesterol diet. And obviously the results came out very negative. You know, they had higher cholesterol levels and, you know, they were more prone to heart attacks and whatnot. But there was this one other group of rabbits which were given the same diet, but they certainly didn't have the higher cholesterol levels and they weren't prone to any cardiovascular diseases as well, if we are to put it that way. Now, what do you think can be the reason that they didn't respond to the same diet the way the others responded?
Maybe because of the
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
positivity.
Yes, thank you so much for saying that. And there's a reason. So imagine that that gentleman who was responsible to feed them would actually pet them, spend time with them, you know, make sure, yes, cuddle those rabbits and whatnot. So imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that it's not just typically that whatever you eat, that's what you're going to be. You know, it totally depends how people who surround you behave with you, how much love they give you, what sort of positive impact they have on your life. So please make sure that whoever you're going to surround yourself with needs to be either on the same mission you are, you know, because if I am to go to Lahore, I cannot ask somebody who's going to Peshawar whether which way is Lahore, right?
Of
and
course.
Number two, you know, they really need to have a positive impact on your life. And this way, ladies and gentlemen, even if, God forbid, you're having a high cholesterol diet, it won't really show up in your results and you'll be healthier.
Of course, and Shahzad, when we talk about self-care as well, positivity is very important. We keep on hearing about the law of attraction, that what you have inside you, you attract people of that same energy around you, right? So that is also very true, and I strongly believe in the law of attraction, that if you yourself are positive, you ultimately attract, and that goes other way around as well. You know, if you put something good in the world, that is ultimately going to come back to you.
And I think what worries me a little is that, you know, in recent times I haven't attracted anybody. Anybody. So I've been staying at home. And this is one thing, you know, this is...
So maybe you are having some negative thoughts in yourself.
This is a hadith which I've been following, alhamdulillah. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that, you know, if you do not have work, you know, then your house or your home happens to be the best place for you. So please make sure that you stay inside. You know, pray to Allah Almighty if you have all of that time.
And being an introvert, I love being a homebody. So
I do not love being a homebody, but it's just that, you know, if I do not have any work, you know, which is going to add to my career or my progression, you know, I'm like, okay, it's best to stay back at home, play with my kids. I think that's the most positive vibe you can get. Shukr, alhamdulillah. And with that gratitude, ladies and gentlemen, which Mariam Zia actually shared just yesterday, that we need to be full of gratitude. Let's get started with the show. Let's move on towards the top stories. Mariam,
and when
what
we
do we
talk
have
about
today?
gratitude, the first top story is also maybe about the gratitude, because Pakistan has been negotiating with IMF, and ultimately Pakistan has got the $3 billion. So Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif's efforts for economic stability have paid off, as the executive board of the International Monetary Fund has approved a standby agreement of $3 billion.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a good news because, alhamdulillah, for a country where we certainly were facing a lot of financial difficulties and challenges, and for what happened in the previous government, I think certainly this is an effort which was required, and you know, it was given the utmost priority as well.
Right,
so
and this is going to attract the investors' confidence in Pakistan
to the
as well.
entire government, you know, for making sure that, you know, that Pakistan's not going to default, and alhamdulillah, not to kind of go across or not to face such a difficulty or challenge for the economy of the country. I think is something which is fruitful, and from here onwards, I believe and I pray that, you know, that we are going to build back better, inshallah, and there won't be such times coming back to Pakistan or the Pakistani nation again. And in addition to that, ladies and gentlemen, we all know how the desecration of the holy book unfortunately took place in Sweden, and which is why obviously the Muslim countries came together. Not just that, Pakistan actually made sure that there's going to be a resolution where people will be binded not to do so. So the United Nations Human Rights Council approved Pakistan's resolution on religious hatred in the wake of the burning of the Holy Quran in Sweden. Now, Zubillah, the resolution was opposed by the United States and the European Union, who say it conflicts with their view on human rights and freedom of expression. 28 countries voted in favor, 12 voted against, and 7 countries abstained. The motion brought by Pakistan in response to last month's incident was seeking to pass the resolution for the UN rights chief to publish a report on the topic and call on states to review their laws and plug gaps that may impede the prevention and prosecution of acts and advocacy of religious hatred. A great job done, alhamdulillah, and I think, you know, as a Muslim majority country, as the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, this is an effort which is commendable by the government of Pakistan. We certainly need to appreciate it. And for all of those countries who've actually signed the resolution, thank you so much for understanding how we feel about our holy book, about our holy prophet. And not just that, ladies and gentlemen, since we never, and you know, our religion never tells us to offend anybody else from other religion.
Right.
We never spoke about Holocaust. We do not, we make sure that we're not going to hurt anybody's sentiment. And that's exactly what we want, you know. So may it be against your rights of freedom to speech and whatnot. Please make sure that you do not hurt anybody else's sentiment. And this is something which I would like to kind of, you know, talk about, you know. And there's a reason, because so imagine, Mariam, you know, our first topic which we'll be discussing is national cohesion. So imagine because most of the time what happens is that, you know, if you know, my mother, for example, I'm sorry that I have to give this example, but my mother is like, jo mere muh chunda main kendi hai. You know, whatever I have in my heart, I'm going to speak it out. And so my conflict with my mother has been, not really conflict, but I try to kind of make sure that, you know, that she's convinced with my theory. And that is that, you know, I'm like, okay, Ma, you know, if you're going to say something which is going to hurt somebody else's sentiment, please make sure that you just don't say it. You know, let's be quiet about it. Let's be quiet about it rather than saying it on somebody's face where somebody might not even like it. What's the point? Even if it's true. You know, I'm not saying that you're lying or you're saying anything other than facts, but even if it's true and if it's hurting somebody's sentiment, what will happen is that it will create a divide. And once that divide is being created, you know, it's really difficult to kind of get rid of that divide over and over again.
And when we talk about national cohesion, of course, this is not only a concept, but this is something bigger than a basic concept that keeps the fabric of the society together and of the nation together. And it is based on, of course, the fundamental principles of equality and inclusivity and social justice for everyone.
Exactly, which is why, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm very lucky that I've actually been joined by one of my favorite guests over here. It's been a long time that we have had a conversation, so today I believe that it's going to be the best time, because we people are not habitual of research. We people are, you know, so at times blindfolded by our interest in a political party, you know, and the kind of conversations we have. Unfortunately, we lose our friends over such conversations. So how do what is, first of all, national cohesion? Where does Pakistan stand in terms of national cohesion, and what needs to be done to make sure that we are more nationally cohesive as well? So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'm very lucky that I've actually been joined by somebody who happens to be a very regular on our show earlier, and now he's congratulated us for our New Year set, which has been a year ago. But sir, we're very lucky that we've been joined by Air Commodore retired Sayyid Shoaib Salim Saad, Satara Imtiaz Military. He happens to be an analyst himself. Hello sir, Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Walaikum salam, how are you?
Absolutely perfect sir, and it's wonderful to see you over here on my New Year set, and I'm glad that you've taken out time for us.
Nice to see you on the new set and with a new companion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much sir.
Thank you so much sir. So sir,
wish you all the best.
First things first, what is national cohesion in your perspective and at large?
National cohesion basically is the very, very strong force which bind the number of people together into one unity.
Okay.
Like in the beginning you said positive thinking, you talk, but whereas positive should repel each other. Whereas in the physics, particle physics,
plus minus.
In the nucleus there are positive signs, but they still do not repel each other. They rather bond together to make a very strong core in the atom. That is the cohesive force that is known as in physics term a strong force.
Right.
True. Or probably, you know, a sense of belonging to your motherland, and
Of
that
course.
too all together. And this sentiment needs to be shared by the entire population of your country. I believe,
and
you know,
with
that's
countries-
at large, that's what national cohesion is.
Of course, and with countries who have such a diverse culture, when we talk about different languages we speak, different weathers we have.
We speak 74
and
different languages
of course,
in our
and
country.
religions we have. So how do you think Pakistan stands at national cohesiveness at this point in time?
Before answering you this question, I would like to take you back into the movement of Pakistan to create nation. That was the subcontinent people, they wanted to have a separate homeland, and they joined hand together and made a cohesive force which ultimately gave them the Pakistan.
True.
And however, you said rightly, the languages, number of languages, ethnicity and number of religions we have in our country, and different type of thinking people, but the cohesiveness needs to be there, although it was there initially, but that is lagging.
Why do you think, sir, you know, why would you kind of speak in favor of national cohesiveness? What benefits do you think cohesiveness is going to hold for people of any nation or any country?
I think that's a very important question. That is
Exactly.
from my heart. Instead of talking about the defense, economics, politics, international affair, that should be strong. What I feel, in case if your national cohesion is strong, rest all will be met automatically. They are the end to.
Okay,
Right,
so
and-
which means what we need to establish over here is we need a reference point. So what we need to establish over here is, because you know, all of these points, when you have spoken about politics, economics of the country and all of these different facets of life, what I want to kind of ask you over here is that these are the sole reasons behind we not achieving or us not achieving national cohesion. You know, that's one thing. So what do you think is that one thing which binds us together as Pakistanis? Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, we all know, Dr. Allama Muhammad Iqbal Sahab, we all know. But in recent times, what we have seen is that there has been a larger divide, probably because of the fact that people are not habitual of research. People do not know still till date over here in Pakistan what Google Scholar is. Then there is a Chowk Chawara conversation everywhere. Then the kind of programming we have over here in media, certainly, you know, every channel has their own narrative to be built as well. I'm very sorry, I'm not labeling anybody, but that's the kind of impact we are having. So, you know, for all of these facets or all of these characteristics you have discussed, these are the characteristics which happen to be the core reason of us not having national cohesion, unfortunately, if that's how you think.
I fully agree with you that people who are not expert on the things, they start commenting on that. I just mentioned you that one of a small businessman, he came to my office and sitting in front of me and saying, Flana journal should become army. I told him, you should focus on your business instead of, you see, talking of that level.
True.
That
Right.
what should be done at the national
That's
level.
true.
You should leave the things onto the national leaders and what they can decide better for the nation.
Yeah.
And as a student, as a politicians, as a teacher, as a businessman, they need to focus on their things
On
and
job.
on their job instead of commenting on being the expert on.
Sir,
That
kya
is
kare
better,
faltu time? You know, what do we do
totally
in our
unrelated.
idle time? Do you want us to go outside in a park for a walk? That's what people are doing. Okay, and there's one more thing. So imagine that, you know, what you're trying to refer to over here is that, you know, people should always focus on their work rather than judging people, you know, who are far beyond their reach, who are far beyond their comprehension, who are far beyond their scope, who are far beyond their education level as well. You know, so that's something which you certainly kind of stamp on, and this is something which you're going to back. Now, the reason why I've been asking you this is that imagine that, you know, when we in a society start to speak about something, that's the only time when we can forecast that, okay, in next 10 years, because people have started to talk about, the change will come. So how do you think when people start to talk about change, when people start to think about change, don't you think that these discussions are very important? They play a pivotal role in that change to be maintained?
Yes, discussions, they are positive, like you talked about positive thinking. Positive thinking should not repel them. They should be a cohesive force. We should keep them together.
Kaise, sir? How?
That is, they should not interfere in any other domain. They should focus in their own things, but openly they can discuss positivity of nation building.
Okay.
Of
That's
course,
the way.
Of course,
That's the
that is
way.
very important, but there are certain challenges as well. How do you think education is important when we talk about national cohesion? Because we keep on talking about that our education system may be one of the factors that has led to the divide that we witness in our nation.
No, I slightly disagree because you remember that in our education system, maybe till matric or FSC, you have a Pakistan studies, Islamia,
Right.
and these are the compulsory subjects you are supposed to be learning.
True.
And that is, I think, the base of the cohesionness. And people talk about कि जी हमारा तो system ही ऐसा है.
Right.
No,
So what are the key challenges that you think that are that we can focus on to address this issue?
in education institutions, we must try to keep our students focus on their studies instead of a divide in between them. That's the education level.
True.
That's the root level. That's why I'm focusing on that. That at the root level, we need to create the cohesiveness and tell them the unity, faith, is discipline is the key to the success
of
of
do you
any
think
nation.
social media platforms and the usage of social media is also an important factor when we talk about this national divide? Or, of course, we keep on talking about national cohesion, but do you think that expressing yourself and diversity of opinion is equally important?
Yes, diversity of opinion is okay, but
घर में हो
without
जाता है।
stepping into the other fields. दूसरे के डोमेन में जाए
You have
बगैर
to
in
respect
case
the boundaries,
yes
and
respect
like
the
Shahzad
boundary
also
and
pointed-
like YouTube or social medias, there are number of things. It's a very positive thing. Technology has brought you to the
Mashallah.
stage where you just click and get everything done. But whereas the excessive of that thing,
Yeah.
that is bad.
But sir, obviously arguments are inevitable. You know, you get into arguments with your other half as well. You know,
Of
so
course.
there can be issues and there can be problems, there can be challenges. As far as, because that's where national cohesion is going to come into play. As far as you know that you are a family, you know, eventually it will settle down. But now what I would like to ask you is that, for example, if there are unnecessary arguments, if there are, you know, other media houses, because we really need to talk about the role of media, and you know, then there is narrative building, then there are people who are pushing it on social media. How do you think people really need to know that, hey, you know what, you know, we certainly need to observe national cohesion over here, rather than getting into this argument and saving ourselves and saving our souls and skin?
You see, there are number of agencies or number of aspects which are against, for every is a common thing for every nations have some enemies.
True.
Also, but we should try to get hold of our Quran. In Quran it says कि आपस अल्लाह की रस्सी को मजबूती से थामो and आपस में तफरका मत डालो. That means you तफरका ना डालना means you have to have a cohesiveness among yourself.
Yeah.
Opinion,
Of
yes,
course.
good, but it should not be biased onto based on
Of course,
somebody
of
else.
course.
Thank you so much for saying that. But sir, don't you think that, you know, when within a society there's so much inequality prevails, or inequality prevails, there will be, you know, issues, there will be challenges to cohesiveness. You know, so imagine that there's one strata of the society which is living below poverty. There's one strata of the society which is
There's social divide.
extensively rich. Don't you think that, you know, that certainly that the government needs to play a role in making sure that everybody is actually facilitated on the same level to observe national cohesion?
And
Yes,
also in addition to that, like you mentioned about कि आपस में तफरका ना डालो, but how important is interfaith dialogue as well?
And harmony,
for
yes.
yes, for interfaith dialogue for national cohesiveness when we talk about
Yes,
this.
interfaith harmony is a very important, and Islam has also taught us. Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, they himself made good deals with the Jews at that time, and with other religions also. He did not disrespect their ideas or disrespect their khudas or their those things. As Shahzad has said, yes, it is the national state is formed by the people to stay together and have a justice, and their all education, all those things, they must be met within that state. Then as the national state is achieved, and that will come through the cohesiveness.
So, which is why, sir, towards the end of this conversation, I'll ask you 4 or 5 questions, and then, you know, whatever brief answers you have for it, please go ahead. So,
I know you had
role of public in national cohesion.
that is the main role they have to play.
The public
is
needs
the
to play a
main
All right,
stakeholder.
and role of students.
They need to be cognizant of this fact that cohesiveness will make them good nation, and they are the future
All right.
leaders.
So I'm moving on to your role of researchers and analysts.
They should focus on their subject and should not divulge on to the others
Politics.
other subjects which they are not expert on. Yes, in which field they are expert, they should comment, they should come forward as a national building,
Yeah.
but they should not go diverse into the other fields.
Role of educators.
Educators, they are the one who can build our nation, our future generation, who can build the future cohesive national Pakistan.
Role of media.
Media will play a very, very critical and dynamic role. It can be a bomb, or it can be a cohesiveness also.
Exactly. And one last thing, sir. How do you think that any married couple can avoid arguments very quickly? Couple cohesiveness. Couple cohesiveness.
Argument with your wife.
They
in the
No, I
morning.
didn't.
They should stop using the social media.
Thank you so
And
much, sir.
also one last comment about the government. What strategies can government adopt to promote national cohesion?
Government should try to focus on developing the nation instead of eliminating the opponents.
Or having their own
They should
interests.
have
Right.
their opponents also on board, like in UK.
Very important.
The serving minister has a shadow minister along with him, so that once in case they come in, they continue the policies.
Right.
That
And
is
in
a very
and in the
important.
recent times, they've changed their leadership so many times that they certainly need somebody to shadow. Yeah.
Yes.
I think that's one of the issues. But thank you so much, sir, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with you. And now moving on to what we wanted to share with our audiences as well, because in summer season there's this one element, there's this one fruit which actually brings a lot of national cohesion
True.
amongst all of us, and that happens to be the king of all fruits, mangoes. So Mariam, what I would want you to answer is, how many different types of mangoes do you remember? Can you share the types of different mangoes?
I don't. I
For
just don't know the
example,
sindri.
Sindri,
I know
Langda,
the sindri, langda.
Anwar Ratol,
Okay, I
and
don't know the
Chaunsa,
Yes, chonsa.
and white chaunsa,
chaunsa.
kala chaunsa bhi hoga phir.
Kala chaunsa.
Ladies and
Lal
gentlemen,
chaunsa.
yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we actually have a fabulous report on mangoes, and just yesterday, there were 2 patties of mangoes at my place as well, but they were a little green, so I couldn't really bring them over here because I wanted to cut them. So there are 3-4 different common styles of how to eat actually mango and how to serve them as well. One is the ice cream one, where you take the upper half away. Then one is the slice one is the take the peel off. Then one is the chop one is the milkshake one. And which is why, in summer you'll see everybody with growing cheeks as well. So ladies and gentlemen, let's go. Let's take a good look at this report from one of our amazing team members, Mr. Ibtisam. Let's go.
In the heart of Pakistan, a land blessed with a fertile soil, abundant sunshine, lies a treasure that tantalizes taste buds and delights food enthusiasts around the world. Pakistani mangoes. Known for their exquisite flavor, vibrant colors, and juicy sweetness, Pakistani mangoes have earned a reputation as some of the finest in the world. Summon any Pakistani market during mango season and you'll be greeted by a dazzling display of mangoes. From the famous of Sindri to the aromatic Chaunsa and the delectable Anwar Ratol, each variety has its unique charm and fan base. The Sindri, with its luscious golden skin and weltery texture, boasts a rich sweet taste that leaves a lasting impression. It's often referred to as the king of mangoes and is highly sought after both locally and internationally. Once harvested, these mangoes go through a meticulous sorting and packaging process. Only the finest mangoes make it export, ensuring that each fruit meets the highest quality standards. From here the journey begins. Pakistani mangoes embark on a remarkable voyage across continents, bringing a taste of tropical paradise to people around the globe. Whether it's in London, New York, Dubai, or beyond, Pakistani mangoes captivate taste buds with their unparalleled flavor. Pakistani mangoes a taste that embodies the warmth and vibrance of Pakistan. With every bite, experience the true sessions of nature's gift. So, whether you're enjoying a slice by yourself or sharing it with a loved one, let the magic of Pakistani mangoes transport you to a world of pure delight.
And certainly the report was such that I feel like eating a mango. And Ibtisam, you did a wonderful job. It was a wonderful report. And while we're speaking of mangoes, very quickly I would want to mention over here that, so all of my friends who live in Multan, I might not even get in touch with them. the rest of the year. But you know, whenever it's summertime, we'll call them Jani, Peti nahi pahunchi, zara Peti to pahunchwa do. But thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Lovely to be in conversation with you. And for people who are outside, ladies and gentlemen, since we were speaking on a very macro issue over here where we wanted to discuss national cohesion and what role everybody needs to play in their capacity, I think what we need to kind of address over here is that at the same time, we really need to make sure that there's inclusivity at large.
Of course.
And while we speak of it, we certainly need to address Balochistan. We're heading out towards a short break. Once we come back after a short break, we will be talking about Balochistan and what efforts have been taking place over there to make sure that we're going to uplift the quality of life over here for the Balochi people. Wash Male after a short break. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome back. We were talking about national cohesion, and of course when we talk about national cohesion, social equality is very important, and we will be talking about a very important program of Balochistan province, that is Balochistan Rural Development and Community Empowerment Program, because the poverty level in Balochistan is very high, but there are a number of development projects going on that a lot of people don't know about. So to discuss this, we are very pleased that we are joined by social activist and development practitioner Mr. Sajjad H. Changezi. Welcome to PTV World, and how are you doing this morning?
Thank you Shehzad and Mariam. I'm doing fine.
And thank you so much for joining us, because it's after a while that I've actually met somebody with a surname Changezi as well, who certainly looks like a Changezi too. So thank you so much. And you know, we certainly wanted to kind of share with our audiences in 47 different countries that how BRACE is actually making sure that, you know, that they're going to alleviate from poverty and the people of Balochistan. Not just that, obviously we certainly want to thank the European Union over here at the same time. So it's BRACE has existed since 2017 in Balochistan. And you know, there's not had been, you know, a lot of coverage about it, whether what has been done. You know, so how was it before 2017, and then how is it, you know, after 2017 and with BRACE?
Sure. Thank you for inviting me and having me here today. The thing is that Balochistan was slightly better off than the rest of the provinces in 1998 and 1999 according to the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. But the early decades in this millennium, you know, Balochistan hadn't been doing really well. So European Union joined hands together with the rural support programs. This is not only in Balochistan, of course. European Union has been partnering with the rural support programs elsewhere in Sindh and as well as in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa.
Yep.
In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we had an excellent program with the Sarhad Rural Support Program. It was called Peace Program. Similarly, in Sindh, it was Success Program. Again, Rural Support Programs Network, Sindh Rural Support Organization, National Rural Support Program, as well as Tardeep Rural Development Program.
Of course.
So all of these joined hands together to uplift the rural poor in Sindh, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and then we brought those learnings together from Sindh and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and tried to, you know, implement the best practices in Balochistan.
Wow.
The idea was that, you know, 1/3 of the rural districts would be covered by this program, BRACE program, through the generous support of the European Union, and then the remaining 2/3 of the province would be covered by the provincial government of Balochistan.
Right.
So that's the idea.
So basically, BRACE program covers 10 districts of Balochistan at the moment. And what is the experience of the communities over there, and how do you overview the, you know, how do they see that, how they are responding basically to this BRACE program?
So the response has been amazing. We've seen you know, tremendous change in the attitudes, in the social attitudes in these districts. So some of the districts we're working, again, some of them are really difficult districts to work in because a lot of them are bordering with Afghanistan. the social attitudes, the influx of the refugees coming into Afghanistan, the social and administrative pressure on the institutions, Pakistani institutions, is huge. But despite all these challenges, we have done, I think, the credit goes to Balochistan Rural Support Program and the National Rural Support Program,
Right.
who have been implementing this project in these communities. Women especially are inspiring. We come across inspiring women in these districts who are
Mashallah.
doing amazing job. They are taking over jobs of many men. Yeah, in
Exactly,
these communities.
and you know, they certainly need to do that as well, and they certainly need the field, and not just that. I think that there was a need for people to understand whether what needs to be done as well, because you know, if we today are not willing to make sure that we are going to be better tomorrow, unfortunately nobody can help us. So for
Of
people
course.
to understand, that was a better idea, and it's great how Balochistan is doing well now. But certainly when we are to talk about the rural development program and the 10 districts that, you know, Brace is working on, what are those different facets of life that you're making sure that, you know, okay, we are going to give them vocational training, probably, you know, education, probably some machinery, you know, for them to do something of their own, cottage industry. So how does this Brace program work, and how do you make sure that, you know, okay, now we're going to give them a sustainable development program with which they can certainly have a better life?
Exactly. So the thing about Breeze program is that this was very different from the
Conventional programs.
Conventional programs.
Okay.
And the thing is that this was not donor driven.
Right.
Actually, rural support programs sat together with the European Union, and European Union asked us to design a program according to our best practices of the 40 years since the Aga Khan Rural Support Program in Gilgit-Baltistan. So the thing is that this program targets poverty. We sit together after, you know, conducting a survey in the communities and identify, you know, which households are the poorest, and then we rank them according to their poverty level.
Okay.
So there are different packages in this program for different tiers of, you know, poor households. For example, the households which are, you know, ultra poor, you know, poorest of the poor. So for them, we provide income generating grants. These is
Right.
like, you know, emergency relief.
Right.
And then for the tier that's slightly above it, still poor, but slightly above the ultra
So
poor.
for the lowest segment, what you're doing is that you're giving them financial aid, right?
Exactly. In cash and in kind.
And this Brace program will continue to give them that financial aid until and unless they are above that poverty level, right?
Exactly.
Okay, now the
this
second
has-
tier.
The second tier is, you know, it's a revolutionary idea. We park millions of rupees with the people's own institutions at the
Right.
Union Council level. So we don't have funds. We take the funds from the European Union and we park it in their accounts. And then these institutions are supposed to revolve these funds without interest.
Okay.
So the first batch, you know, of people who take out loans
So it's
Right.
like
in order
loans
to
without
increase their
interest,
income.
right?
So what are prerequisites to become part of this second tier system? To get the loans from those institutions where the money is already
कहाँ से
parked?
guarantee
Yeah,
लेके आनी?
so that question takes us back to the three tier model that rural support programs work.
Yeah.
And again, this is based on the learning that we did, you know, in 1982 from Gilgit-Baltistan it started, and then it has traveled across Pakistan. Right now, this is the largest network of communities in Pakistan. So the idea is that we go to households,
Okay. Right.
because basically political leadership or administrative, you know, structure can never engage people or masses of Pakistan at each household or each individual level. So we go to individual and household level, and then we bring at the neighborhood level we establish community organization.
Okay.
And then with community organizations we pull out their representatives and build, you know, a village organization at the village level. And then again from the village level we federate. We facilitate federation of the village level organizations into union council level
Yeah.
local support
So
organizations.
the provincial government plays a role.
Exactly. And then these local support organizations, they are basically people's own institutions, you know, engaging with the government, interacting with the social, with the administrative and political pillar. They get their work done through their political leaders as well as, you know, deputy commissioners and the
Yeah.
government infrastructure there is. So the most amazing part is that, you know, millions of rupees are parked with the union council level organizations. As I said, you know, the revolutionary idea,
Of
they're
course.
revolving it again and again, and I'm really pleased to see, you know, in some of the communities which we provided only 3 million rupees.
Yep.
Now, when I visit those communities, I see, they have a portfolio of 3.5 million.
Wow.
So
it's
not only
incredible.
they have been revolving those funds,
They are
actually they've
generating
been
the
they're
revenue
generating
as
more.
well,
Yeah,
of course.
And it's a great idea, because I still remember that, once my father told me that how important of a role charity does play. So what he used to do was, he taught me once that, okay, that, that there's a certain amount of money which I'm going to give to somebody, let him or her open up a shop or whatever they want to do, and then they're supposed to give it back to me in a year's time.
Exactly.
Right.
And when they give it back to you, you give it back to somebody else, and then that's wonderful. But when there are so many stakeholders included, for example, union council, at the provincial level, how do you make sure that that transparency is being ensured? How do you make sure that that the person who really needs to be benefited from that amount of money, that money will certainly end up in his account or to his favor?
Exactly. So that's where rural support programs step in.
Yeah.
So we are basically facilitators between people's own institutions and the donor agencies.
Right.
Okay.
We build the capacity of these institutions. Leadership trainings are in place. Monitoring, a whole a framework of monitoring is in place. We actually have the check and balance on all these beneficiaries. We ensure that the amount of the funds and the relief, it goes to the right individuals and right households.
Right.
Wow.
So,
So that's
you
the
play a
role.
role of liaison as well.
Exactly.
So, of course, this program was launched back in 2017 when we talk specifically about Balochistan. Can you give us some of the examples where the quality of life of those people have improved and now they are self-sufficient, or maybe generating revenue for the country as well?
Yeah. So there's so much anecdotal evidence as well as third-party researches.
Okay.
Of course, the macro level, the rural support programs or any civil society organization can never claim, to have made a major dent into poverty, because that's again a macro issue.
True.
But at the household level, through our surveys with our beneficiaries, we've been able to, pull out of poverty, especially with the ultra poor households. 76% of the people that we've surveyed, we've been able to pull them out of poverty.
Right.
But at the overall level, it's a difficult challenge, because again, three major challenges that we've seen through the last 6 years is, number one is COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah.
It
Climate
affected
change.
everybody.
True.
And then the second is the political
Flooding
and
and
somehow
climate.
economic inflation. The rates have been as high as 12%. It has affected me and you here in Islamabad.
Everybody,
So let alone communities living
Yeah.
in very remote districts. But also the third, like last year, late summer floods
Floods,
in
yes.
Balochistan. They have devastated communities.
But in addition to that, there's one more point which I wanted to discuss, and so I might not be on the right path with this question, but this is something certainly which I would want to talk about. Now, what happens is that when we do see that that there are projects like Brace which are working in 10 different districts of Balochistan, a lot of people who actually belong to from that halka will politicize it as well for their interest. Obviously
Yes.
they'll be like, okay, we got this project over here, and your vote bank certainly needs to be ours. What's your take on this? Is it really a political struggle over there for people to make sure that all of those people who represent them politically are the ones responsible for these projects to be over there? Or is it solely, would you say, European Union? Or do you think that it's a partnership in between the political leadership and the European Union?
Yeah. So the fight against elite capture is a genuine challenge for us as well. At the Union Council, at the village level, of course, this is something we fight on daily basis. But other than that, if communities are really smart, and
Yeah.
some of the communities I visited in Khil Abdullah Chaman, Balochistan Rural Support Program, was there. And the communities were really intelligent. So I was asking the same question. Are you, for example, are you in favor of this party or this party?
Yeah.
And they said, we've pulled out some people from each party.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
and whenever we have to do something with let's say Balochistan Awami Party, or Pakhtunkhwa Milli Awami Party, or a Awami National Party, or
Yeah.
any People's Party or PMLN. So we do have some people who have association with
From
each
every
party.
party, yeah.
And then whenever we have to do some collective things done for our community,
Yeah.
we have to have supplies for our schools or the dispensary, or a road to be built. then we send out these specific people with association to those political candidates.
Of course.
Okay, yeah,
And then
yeah.
we have reserve stock
So
as
there
well
is
for
still-
others.
That's really smart. That's really smart.
There's
Yeah.
still red tapeism and bureaucratic hurdles, but maybe lack of infrastructure may be one of the issues when we talk about implementing such programs for economic growth or development. So is this BRACE program doing something regarding connectivity, because the road connectivity may be lesser in that areas, or for the infrastructure development, or the easy transportation of people from one place to another for, you know, doing their business?
One belt, one road, CPAC, so many initiatives have been taken.
And
Exactly.
Gwadar is
Yeah.
in Balochistan.
So the problem was with the idea, even when we target poverty, it benefited people, you know, with not with the idea of equality, but equity.
Okay.
So the most deserving people received, you know, the larger chunk of relief, you know, or funds, and then people in that order. But also in order to ensure inclusivity, that, you know, everybody benefits.
True.
If I'm not a poor in that community, I still have the right to, you know, benefit something from this program.
Because
so for that,
national cohesion.
Yeah,
exactly,
obviously.
exactly. So for that, we had the package of community physical infrastructure.
Right.
In that, again, this came from the communities themselves. You know,
Yeah.
they sat together at the village level and then at the union council level, and they said, you know, we have all these development needs, and then they negotiated within themselves, you know, in order to prioritize what needs, and then we had some funds to build 357 community physical infrastructure.
Wow.
Most of them have been, you know, drinking water supply schemes. Again, in Balochistan, when there is drought, you know, there's dry weather patterns, this is a major issue. But then, as you said, you know, road connectivity, it's another thing. Supplies for schools and basic health units,
Of
that's
course.
another thing. So all these together, these are benefiting 42,000 households right now.
And thank you so much for saying that, because, you know, at this point of time, I would like to add over here that I'm very sorry, but I'll have to put the facts straight, and that is that in the previous government, you know, the exports actually from the Gwadar port came down to as low as $1 billion. Now imagine that in just the 9 months of this government, they've made sure that it's going to go reach up to $6 billion as well, and that's something which actually provides that ecosystem with which people will be earning money as well, and it needs to be done. We really need to make sure that we take advantage of all of those resources we have built over there or we rely on. So very quickly, towards the end, one last thing, number one and number two. So number one, why these 10 particular districts, you know, were chosen by BRACE? Number two, do you think that this BRACE program is so sustainable that it's going to reach out to other districts now as well?
And also a little more addition that investment in human capital is also very important when we talk about such programs. So are you doing something about education of the youth over there as well, besides the skills development and vocational training program?
Because you were really inspiring today.
Yeah, thank you so much. So your question, Mariam, I'll tackle that first.
Ladies first,
Of
yes.
course, there is this very comprehensive toolkit. We call it a community awareness toolkit. It tackles 12 social issues, major issues, from health, from education, from disaster management, all these issues.
Amazing.
And then every time communities meet, you know, there's a community resource person, an activist, who actually delivers one of these sessions on education, on, you know, basic civic rights, on, as I said, disaster management, and all these. So this is improving. And then for women, we also have the accelerated learning program, you know, ALNS. And then when coming to your question, Shahzad, these districts were chosen in order to, you know, have a diversity within all regions of Balochistan. Balochistan is, you know, it's a vast, it's like 44% of Pakistan's land mass. So we chose some districts from Balochistan south, some from Balochistan's central regions, some from Balochistan's northern regions.
So the
this
best
is
you can
also
do.
ethnic diversity. So the northern districts are mostly Pashtun dominated, and then southern and, you know, central, they are like more
People
Baloch
from every
districts. So we had this flavor, and then we have had amazing experiences from these diverse, you know, communities, diverse
Different
backgrounds.
thought
and
processes, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's wonderful.
Amazing.
And then the last
Yes.
question, you know, the
Sustainability.
sustainability thing. It's very, you know, for me, I'm very glad to proclaim this, that Balochistan government has, you know, recently promulgated community-led local governance policy, and they've also made amendments into their local government act since 2010. So the thing is, you know, now communities' own institutions, people's own institutions, they can work with the local government there.
Wow.
And then also the local governments have been empowered to you know, to receive funds from donor agencies, and Balochistan government is actually advocating with the European Union and other donors to continue
and that's
this.
wonderful. So thank you so
Excellent.
much, Changezi Saab, for being with us. It was lovely to have you over here, Mr. Changezi, and we would certainly want you to come over again. Probably after a year, and discuss what we have achieved over time as well. And for everybody who's out there, ladies and gentlemen, I think over here, my and Mariam's role is to make sure that when we speak of about national cohesion, we actually think about the all of Pakistan.
Of course.
Just not focus on one part or one province or one region, and that's certainly what the government is doing as of now, alhamdulillah. And they certainly want to facilitate the people of Balochistan the way every other province's people have been facilitated. We will continue to do so, and we will continue to serve the nation. And in all of our capacity, we'll make sure that that we'll be truthful to our responsibilities,
Inshallah.
and that's something which everybody is supposed to do. Ensure to and make sure that you ensure your national cohesion, because that's one thing, ladies and gentlemen, which makes us Pakistanis. Pakistan Zindabad. Until next time, 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
morning.
Have a great day.